Hi everybody, Jonathan Reeves here with another Twinmotion video. Today we're going to look at how to get the best performance when running on the Mac platform. Now I know many people, many of my clients are running the Mac and they love Twinmotion because it's really the only real-time rendering software that we have available on the Mac platform. Lumion and Enscape, the other sort of rivals if you like, only run on PC and Windows. So for those Mac users, and obviously a lot of designers are very sort of keen Mac users, Twinmotion is a fantastic option for loads of reasons. Apart from anything, it's a brilliant bit of software and very low cost. Only £175 at the moment for the next week, so do snap it up from real-time-rendering.com, my website. But basically, you know, if you're running kind of real-time rendering on the Mac platform, there's definitely a few tips that you need to kind of look at, and that's what we're going to do in this video. Now specifically, I'm running it on a MacBook Pro. It's actually not even the latest one. It's a 2016 model with a 4GB graphics card, so by no means the latest. Okay, so we're going to take a look at how to get the best performance from Twinmotion 2020 on your Mac. Now specifically, we're going to look at running on a MacBook Pro with an internal display, built-in graphics card, 4GB graphics card. And then we're going to run a second test by plugging that MacBook into an external 32-inch bench monitor and seeing how Twinmotion performs again on the built-in graphics card and how you can kind of get the best performance even in this setup. Then we're going to go on and look at the EGPU external graphics card setup. And we're going to talk a bit about this, and I'll talk about the sort of performance benefits and so on. So we're going to do a test on the internal display of the MacBook, but using the Razer Core X. And then we're going to really go for it. We're going to plug the MacBook Pro into the 32-inch bench monitor, and we're going to run it with the Razer Core X and Vega 64 eGPU, and see what kind of performance gains you might expect to get with this setup. Okay, so what I've done basically is I've opened up the demo scene to do this tutorial, and I think this is a really nice example for you all to look at when you're learning Twinmotion, and actually just to kind of learn and navigate around and maybe try some new materials. It's a great scene that comes with the software. Now on the right hand side, you'll notice that I can pop out the side manager and I can basically open different statistics and scenes information. So let's open the statistics info. And basically what this will do is give me a bit of an insight into my frame rate and performance of Twinmotion. So without really doing anything, you can see I'm not moving around or anything. You can see I've got kind of like a steady sort of 21 frames a second, which isn't too bad. And actually you can see on screen, it's kind of usable. It's actually not that bad. It's relatively smooth. And this is just the internal graphics card driving the software. Now if I just kind of pop out for a second, go to my activity monitor, just bring this up, I just really want to kind of show you that you can actually basically have a look at what the GPUs are doing by going to GPU history. And you can see with Twinmotion at the moment, I've basically got two graphics cards, the Intel integrated graphics card that's actually on the Intel chip, and the AMD Radeon Pro 460. So again, by no means the latest GPU. The new 16-inch laptop MacBook Pros have very, very nice powerful graphics card, and I am quite keen to see how they might perform in the future. So basically when I'm in Twinmotion, let's just kind of get back in. I'm just going to kind of see if I can kind of keep this windowed, just so you can kind of get a bit of a feel. You'll see, you know, the integrated graphics card not really doing a lot, but the actual Radeon graphics card doing quite a bit. It's doing all the horsepower work really. We've kind of dropped down to 15 frames a second, 20 frames, something like that. Okay, so let's go full screen again, and let's use the inbuilt frame counter there, but I just thought it'd be nice to show which graphics card was doing what. So the first tip I will give you, if you're running on a computer where you are struggling to get the smoothness, what you can do is go into your preferences and basically go to quality. So if you were under quality settings, if you click automatic setup, it probably will suggest what it thinks is the best system for you. It doesn't always necessarily mean that you have to use that option, and you will notice there is lots of control under these things here. So I really just wanted to kind of run through these with you. This is the first port of call for, you know, improving performance for Twinmotion. So if I go for kind of low settings, you can see, yeah, the frame rate's gone up. Great. Let's have a little drive around the scene. And to be honest, navigating around is pretty zippy, but the quality isn't there. So what this means is when you're actually working in Twinmotion, maybe kind of adding materials and sort of things into the scene, that's not a problem. You know, you're kind of just adding them in and basically maybe scaling them and rotating them, that kind of thing. You can still get a bit of a flavour of what's going to happen in the image, but it isn't high quality by any means. And you will actually notice by actually popping out the side panel, it reduces the sort of size of the viewport. So that in itself actually increases and decreases the frame rate a little bit. So that's certainly one tip. But you know, I have to say, I don't really like running in low. It looks very sort of SimCity-like and not very nice to look at. So let's go to preferences. Let's go have a quick look at medium. Now you'll be actually quite surprised. There's a big difference between medium and low settings. The lighting looks a lot better, and you get the lighting and the shadow, which you just don't get in low. Even things like the reflectivity, I just select this material here, kind of boost that up. You're not getting really true reflections, but you're getting a bit of an impact on the lighting and so on. And if we kind of open up the statistics here, you see we're running at a pretty healthy frame rate, you know, which isn't bad for the integrated graphics card on this little MacBook Pro, which is actually, you know, 2016 model, 4 years old. So it's perfectly adequate for doing sort of Zoom presentations to clients and sort of driving them around the model. Not bad at all. Okay, so, and I can still go in and kind of change the time of day, sort of change my lighting, sort of swap that around, get a really nice impression of what's going on. So let's have a look at what we might do to increase the settings to basically a higher level. Let's go up to quality. Let's go to high. Looks a bit like an iMac, doesn't it? So let's go for high. So maybe if you've got an iMac, that'll be the one to go for. So I've gone up to high settings, and you can see, wow, you know, it does look pretty awesome. We've gone for a really nice kind of level of rendering. The shadows look a lot smoother, and really things like the reflectivity. If I kind of have a little play with this surface here, you can really kind of get a feel for the light bouncing around and materials, how they actually look in reality. So that reflectivity is probably the biggest thing. So I think quality of shadows, reflectivity, those are the biggest things, and the sort of quality of the light generally. You will notice the frame rate dropping down a little bit here. Let's kind of go back. Yeah, we're down to 13 now. And it's starting to feel a little bit sluggish. You know, when I'm moving my tools around, they feel a bit unresponsive. So, you know, on this particular computer, this is probably not what I want to work in. I probably want to work in the lower settings or medium settings, and then basically just boosted up that to do some previewing. Okay, so look, while we're here, let's crush this poor computer and let's go for the ultra settings. Really not designed for a laptop. Here's a picture of a big chunky desktop and an external monitor. Okay, right, so you can really kind of feel it's gone a bit jerky now. You know, we're getting loads of kind of blurring as we're going around. I mean, on the positive side, the image quality, wow, absolutely pretty stunning for a real-time rendering software. So, you know, you can still move around and just let it catch up. It is a bit sort of blurry while it's actually doing the transitions. But yeah, that's pretty cool in terms of actual quality. Let's kind of adjust the lighting one more time. So go to our lighting. You see, I can see my cursor's moving around quite sluggishly and slowly. So if this is a problem you're experiencing, you just need to change the quality settings. But actually, you know, not bad at all. So that's pretty neat in terms of being able to sort of swing through and change the lighting. You can see it sort of takes a while to catch up. And my poor, you know, integrated graphics card's not doing a lot. My dedicated graphics card will be doing all the work at the moment. Because it's a few years old, you know, it's not doing too bad at all. Okay, cool. So those are probably the first solutions that you would go for when running on a Mac with perhaps not the best graphics card. You want to be working in medium. And the really great thing is you can also, if there's something particularly important to you like shadows, you know, you can always set those up to high. Or maybe, let's have a think, sort of view distance. Yeah, that's okay. We can adjust that as well. Maybe let's go to low, click OK. So now we've got kind of intermediate settings. And actually that's not bad. I don't really do this very often because I just go with the standard presets. But you can see I've got a nice healthy frame rate and my shadows are looking great and not bad at all. Definitely the view distance doesn't look quite as good in the background, but still pretty impressive. Okay, cool. So, I guess a healthy green 25-30 frames a second is ideally what you're looking for. And again, when you're working in the software, you just feel everything feels a bit snappier. So, when you sort of change through menus and kind of drag and drop sort of things into the scene, it kind of feels snappy, yeah? And that's really important when you're kind of in a bit of a design flow. You want things to feel snappy. And when you're in ultra settings, it certainly feels quite sluggish. So let's kind of go into that. But that's only because my graphics card's, kind of too old really for this computer. I'm looking forward to upgrading at some point, but in truth, I just upgraded to macOS Catalina last week, and Twinmotion and my whole computer feels like a whole new software. So I'm really enjoying just getting a little bit more kind of, a bit more life out of this little laptop. And I will be changing it at some point, but not quite yet. Good. Okay, so my recommendation, go for medium settings or do some fine tuning here. Now, the second thing that you can actually do, perhaps to increase frame rate, is actually run, rather than running Twinmotion full screen, run it in a kind of slightly more windowed environment. So that can actually help with the frame rates, but of course, what you end up struggling with is basically, smaller screen environment. So I really don't recommend that. That's a real kind of absolute fallback if you really can't run it on your computer at the moment. Okay guys, so this kind of just gives you a bit of an impression how the integrated graphics card can run Twinmotion and the performance levels you can get. I've also downloaded a really nice cool little iStats thing, and this is something I would recommend. This is quite nice because it gives you quite a bit of understanding of your computer and what it does. You can kind of get a bit of an idea of the RAM and sort of CPU temperatures, that sort of thing. And also keep an eye on the kind of internal temperature of the GPU and how much power it's actually drawing, and frames per second, that kind of thing. So this is a great little program, iStats, just to give you a bit more depth information as well as the inbuilt activity monitor. Okay, great. Right, so the next part of this video, what we're going to do is hook our laptop up to an external display. I've got a couple of external displays, but I'm going to run it on my 32-inch bank monitor, which is the one that I prefer to work on most of the time. And then we're going to plug the eGPU in and do a little bit more testing, both on the internal screen and the external screen as well. So I've now hooked up my MacBook Pro to my gorgeous 32-inch BenQ monitor, and I'm just going to really show you a few different options here. Now you can see we're getting kind of 15 frames a second at the moment, and just remind ourselves which settings we're actually in. Let's go, we're in high, okay cool, so let's drop down to medium. Hopefully we'll get that up into the green, and actually that's looking pretty cool. We're up in the green, it feels pretty smooth, a little bit jerky when we kind of pan around, I've noticed, particularly get a little bit of tearing on the image there, but not too bad at all. Now you notice at the moment all the icons are huge. I don't have a huge amount of screen space, so yeah, certainly good if you're a little bit visually impaired at the moment, but basically that's because if I go into my system preferences, I'm actually running in very low resolution, 1920 by 1080. So my preferred resolution for Twinmotion is actually the next one up. You wouldn't want to run it in 4K or anywhere near really, so let's go for this one here. This scaled resolution, that's a lot nicer in terms of screen size, and you can see everything looks pretty clear, nice size of icons, and actually still getting great performance really for a 4-year-old MacBook Pro with an okay graphics card. Now, it's definitely a little bit sort of sluggish as we pan around, so you have to kind of live with some of those elements. But the thing to bear in mind with Twinmotion is when you actually render the final output, it will always be the same quality, depending on whether you've got a really fast graphics card or a basic one. It just takes a lot longer. On a fast graphics card, it could be 5-6 times longer, maybe more for the rendering. So in terms of sort of working, it's working performance for me that matters the most, just so I get a decent experience when I'm actually in Twinmotion and sort of being able to kind of, drag and drop items and actually find that it's kind of working. Now this is fine, I'm able to kind of move things around, sort of rotate them, sort of drag a few items into the model. Let's copy that one over there with the shift key and spin it around. So, as your models kind of get larger and larger, obviously you will find things can slow down. And the key is, whoops, Let's drag that down with the widget there and spin that around. But you know, I don't really need a lot of frames per second when I'm actually placing objects and moving around. Potentially when I'm doing lighting and adjusting lighting, that's maybe when I want to, you can see it sort of really feels a bit sluggish on the lighting side, and yeah, it's kind of okay. It's not bad, but I can definitely, you know, do with a bit more oomph. So this is my 32-inch monitor. I've done a similar test on my Apple monitor, and actually that gives a really nice sort of frame rate as well, sort of similar level of performance. So the monitor itself doesn't really make any difference. It's all about the resolution of the screen, which is fairly obvious because I guess it's the amount of pixels the graphics card's pushing around. So the main thing that still will kind of determine your quality level is this quality area here, and you can always adjust some of these down potentially to even lower as well, just to get a bit more out of it. Okay, so what we're going to now do is look at the difference that the eGPU, the external graphics card, makes. And I've got some information on that. I've done a video on that a few years ago, which I'll kind of put the link in the description. But it's a really nice graphics card. It's a Vega 64, which is actually still an amazing graphics card, and really kind of better than a lot of the graphics cards you can still get on any of the Macs. So I'm really keen to show you the difference in how this performs. So this is a really good solution as a temporary fix if you don't want to change your MacBook Pro and you still want better performance for real-time rendering. Let's get into this. Okay, cool. So we're on to the next part of the video. You can see I've now plugged in my AMD Radeon RX Vega 64 graphics card, the big beast as I like to call it. So this is now plugged in using a Thunderbolt C connection, and actually with macOS Catalina, the great thing is it can actually power the internal screen. So I've unplugged all my external screens and I'm just really running this native. I also just want to show you another nice little tip. I'm just going to go down into my preferences here. Let's have a quick look. And basically what I wanted to show you was if you can go and find where the application for Twinmotion is installed. That's a little bit tricky to find actually. I had to do a bit of digging around, but I eventually found it under the macOS users shared Epic Games Twinmotion. And in fact, if I go back a level, you'll see pretty much all my versions of Twinmotion are in there right through. So what you can do is click onto the application and get info. And then once you get info, you'll notice that this is actually quite nice. That basically you can select the Twinmotion itself, and if you open up the settings here, we can basically tell it to prefer an external GPU. So what that means is Twinmotion is always set to use the external graphics card when there's one plugged in. If it isn't plugged in, then it will just run normally, but when we tick this one, it will force it to use. You can do that with any of the programs, so any 3D software running on a eGPU setup on a say a MacBook Pro, that's what you should do. Okay, so now I've basically told my Twinmotion to prefer the eGPU. I've quit out of Twinmotion, I'm just kind of relaunching just to make sure that it's actually going to use the GPU itself. And I'm just going to double check by going into my stats, and I can see, yes, the Vega 64 is kind of warming up, doing a bit of work there. Let's just check the frame rate before we're going to go any further. Just pop that back open and basically click on stats. Wow, 189 frames, nothing in the model, so that's not surprising. Basically, let's open the demo scene one more time and see what happens to the frame rate. So, a couple of things to bear in mind. If you use an eGPU, I mean, I personally use it with my external screen mainly, but there's no reason why you shouldn't use it with the internal screen. And that will be for you quite nice performance boost on your MacBook Pro. So maybe, you know, it's a way of not actually buying a new MacBook Pro, just buy the external graphics card, which, you know, saves you quite a few £1,000s. Now, the benefit of having the external screen is really more working space and more efficient ways to work. But you can see that even with the external graphics card plugged into the screen, now that we've relaunched, we are getting pretty stupendous, amazing performance. Let's just check our settings. So we go to quality. Okay, if we go to automatic, it's going to pop us into high. So even on high settings, I think we can kind of drive around quite safely in the green in sort of decent frame rate. Just going to slow that down a little bit. So basically you can slow this down. If I click 1, I go a bit slower. If I click 2, go a bit faster. And if I click 3, I'll go way too fast, you can see. Let's click 2. Let's go into the space again. Actually, it was quite nice being outside. Let's kind of go outside and see what difference that makes to the frame rates. Because one of the benefits of Twinmotion is the amazing sort of moving grass and plants and things like that. And you can see as we kind of move around, some of these are plants will be sort of blowing in the wind and things like that. But look, the quality of them looks absolutely fantastic. And you can see we're on 40 frames a second. Let's just hide that for a minute. And let's just kind of adjust our time of day. Look at that, guys. Absolutely amazing. Really, really nice. So this is my MacBook Pro 2016 model. Really given a new lease of life by macOS Catalina. But most importantly, the eGPU, the Vega 64 graphics card that you probably would have found in things like iMac Pros before now. What do you think? I think that's a really nice level of performance boost we're getting. And we're, able to run that quite fast. Now, when you come to the actual final renders, you really are going to find it's going to rip because the graphics card will be doing all the work. So that's really important to bear in mind. Okay, cool. So we're going to do one more little test. We're going to hook up the Vega 64 to the external monitor running from the MacBook Pro and see how that performs. But on average, I think I was getting sort of 50, 60 frames a second in high settings. Most importantly, it's kind of how it feels, really. It's not about the frame rate, it's just how it feels and how kind of important, how kind of slick and important those sort of settings are to you while you're working. Do remember that the final quality will be the same every time. So let's run the next part of the video. We're going to look at the final part of this video, which is basically running the eGPU and my 32-inch bank monitor to see what kind of performance we're going to get. So you can see I've gone to statistics and we're getting a really nice big smooth drive as we walk through. Click 1 to go nice and slow. Really, really nice and smooth. We've got the quality. It's looking pretty awesome in the shadows and the movement and so on. And it's super smooth. So basically, let's just check our settings. We're on high. Now, not bad. If we go to ultra, probably drop down a bit. Yes, it's kind of down to 21, 22 frames a second. To be honest, you don't really need to work in ultra, maybe just do your final previews, but you get a bit of an idea about the quality of Twinmotion running on a little MacBook Pro with an eGPU. So my favourite setting probably for the eGPU, it's probably high. When I'm not plugged in, it's medium. Let's go for high. And we're back in the green, looking good. So this is the mode that you want to work in. So really this video has just been really to show you that Twinmotion is not only amazing software, but cross-platform real-time rendering is really available for everybody. And it will work on even older Macs. My MacBook Pro's 4 years old, not got the best graphics card, and it's running okay. Particularly when you get an external graphics card. And mine's a Razer Core X with a Vega 64 graphics card. I did a whole video on this, so I'll put the link in the description, and you can kind of see the specs of the computer that I have and so on. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I do recommend that you snap up Twinmotion now while it's half price. We've currently got 55% off at real-time-rendering.com, which is basically our site in the UK to tell you all about the benefits of Twinmotion and real-time rendering software. So please check it out, and I look forward to you subscribing for more videos coming soon. We'll be doing a bunch of tutorials on Twinmotion 2020 shortly, but I look forward to you joining us. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.